of the Jefferson Elementary School District, March 25th, 2015, at 7:01 p.m.
Joseph Atidi,
Here.
Marie Briswella,
Here.
Manufo Leah Inga Anawai,
Here.
Rebecca Douglas,
Here.
Shaquille Ali.
Here. And is there anyone here to do the pledge? All right. Yep. All right, Ms. Hopkins, would you like to lead the pledge? All right. All right. And do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Yes. First item is public hearing, and this is for AFT Local 3267 contract proposal. And just a reminder to the public that the board is just here to listen tonight. We will not be responding. And let's see. The first person is Ron Johnston, starting at 7:03.
Good evening. My name is Ron Johnson. I'm a teacher at Tobias Elementary. And one of the items that we are discussing in negotiations is collaborative time. Now, that's something that everybody agrees we need more of. But what the teachers strongly feel that we don't need is more time doing data analysis, more time doing looking at charts. I mean, I spent recently an hour creating a chart and a data analysis that told me exactly what I knew before I even started. And what we're afraid of is that we'll be doing more of that instead of doing what we need to do, which is talk with our grade teams, with the other teachers about, yes, we have students that have needs, and we know that. We work with them every day. What we need to do is have time to be able to plan and say, okay, we've got these students that they have these needs. What are we going to do for them? How are we going to help them? Let's plan out what we're going to do. And that's what we need more time for collaboration. Not doing data, not following forms. I know to a certain extent, because of the grant, they need some accountability. And there's a simple way to do that. We can do that. We're professionals. We can account for our time. But we also know what our students need. And we want the time to be able to give them what they need to do what we know we can do best, and that's to help our students. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Janet Harrison.
I have some show and tell. Thank you. I'd like to thank Melinda Dart for attending all of the board meetings that I am unable to attend and that many of us are unable to attend as teachers. So thank you to AFT's president, Tracy and Victoria. All right. Thank you to my assistant. I basically just want to repeat what Ron said, that the more time that we have to justify our professional existence to others, the less time we have for planning and talking about the students that we teach. Filling in boxes, filling in pie graphs, bar graphs, looking at computer, that isn't really the human element that we're talking about with little kids. Also, we have new curriculum. This is the math for 3rd grade. Want to help me over here again so I don't drop any of this stuff? That's the new curriculum. This is the current curriculum, volume 1, in math. This is a problem solver book that we have to help us with problem solving and reasoning and part of the Common Core. This is not really organized so well that I can show you all of 3rd grade. This is for all grades. Thank you, Kat. This is the other volume of everyday math that we teach. This is, oh yeah, this is the first volume. That was the second volume in math. This is the first volume. This is the Reading Street Common Core Bridge lessons. For each week, there's about 15 pages that we have to study, figure out what's best for the students that we teach, and also make sure we're working together because we work as a team. And this is one of 6 volumes of the current reading program that we use, in addition to the white notebook, which I just showed you. So there's 4 more of these. So we need a lot of time to plan and not justify our existence for others. We can fulfill the requirements that we need to for grants and for funding, but please be mindful of our time. We need it to plan, to work together, and correct papers. Thank you.
All right, that concludes the public hearing at 7:09. Item number 2, public hearing for Jefferson Elementary School District's counter proposal to AFT Local 3267. And we have no speaker cards. Did you want to say anything, Brian? Oh, actually, yes, you're right. Sorry. Melinda Dart.
Yes. I want to invite up with me tonight the teachers from our preschool in our district.
Hey.
So I just want to remind the board, I know you know all about the preschool. You might not know that we have increased the teaching staff at the preschool, but we have several people that have been there for many, many years. And you might not know that preschool duties have increased over the years. Preschool teachers come to professional development now with other teachers, which is a good thing. But because of that, teachers also work at the preschool on incorporating some of the themes and lessons having to do with the new Common Core standards. So they think about text-dependent questions about text, just like other teachers in the district do. They figure out how to implement the standards into their teaching. They have math professional development. They do dot talks, I believe they're called. They're working on these things as they should be, right, with all of us. They collaborate with each other. They consider individual needs of their students, and I think they spend a lot of time considering individual needs of the smallest students, rightly so, right? These are the smallest students in our district, and the assessment of these students are individual, as they should be, right? But it takes a lot of time. Something you might not know is that some teachers at the preschool have worked there 25 years. Wow. And for the last 18 years, the teacher that's been there the longest has not had any further steps in her salary schedule. She might get an increase if we all get an increase, but she doesn't have any steps in her salary schedule. Now, in the classified salary schedules in our district, we have longevity, right? We have longevity for all classified employees, from director of maintenance and for aides and for secretaries. And that longevity, by the way, is based on how many years those classified employees have been with the district, not on their education. Some preschool teachers have BAs, some preschool teachers don't, because it is not at this point mandatory for them to have a BA to have a preschool certificate, right? So, so we just want to share with you, we don't think longevity is connected to education levels. We think it's connected to years of service. And in our proposal, we are asking that these teachers who work so hard for so many years and do so much get recognized. I think they deserve further steps on their salary schedule. And I gotta tell you that it doesn't cost very much in the greater scheme of things, because their salaries are the lowest of all of our teachers. They really are. And many of them are new, but they would like to have something to work towards over the years, right? They're just beginning, but they hate the idea of their steps ending so soon. They want to be able to stay there 25 years like Conchita has. They want to be able to make a career out of being in preschool. So we wanted to share that with everyone tonight, and thank you for listening.
Maria Gomez, sorry, or Gomes. Oh, Ricardo? All right.
Hello, my name is Ricardo Gomez, and I'm with my wife, Maria Gomez, and our children who are students at the Jefferson Elementary, Westlake Elementary School. And I wanted to speak on behalf of supporting a cap on the preschool enrollment for children with special needs, specifically children with severe conditions to be dealt with. We wanted to address the fact that currently where we're in attendance, we have one of our instructors, teachers here. Our concern is that there's a need for a one-to-one interface between the students, our children, and the instructor. I'm a professor at San Francisco State University, and so I know what the need is in terms of dealing with one-on-one situations. Fortunately, they're in a small room capacity, and we really appreciate that, and they've benefited greatly from that. They're 3 years old, and we have our 6-year-old son who also attends Westlake, so it's wonderful that we can have them all together, particularly in terms of mainstreaming our children with special needs. So we're appealing to the board to consider putting a cap on the rooms, because currently our children need one-on-one interaction with the instructors because they're still unable to speak proficiently. They need speech therapy, and they also are not potty trained, and so they don't function independently. We're fortunate that they're in on an early intervention, 3 years old, because we hope by the time they're at kindergarten age, they'll have developed a capacity where they'll be able to be better introduced into mainstream enrollment at Westlake. So we'd like you to consider that, as well as consider the fact that we would petition for extended hours. Right now, they have 3 hours per week, 4 days a week. We would certainly welcome the opportunity to have at least 20 hours per week for our children. We were very fortunate that we had early intervention prior to them becoming 3, and so we had the benefit of having a lot of one-on-one with various therapists that really helped to excel their learning development. And we're hoping that we realize there are restrictions and limits on resources, but we're hoping that at least acknowledging the need for a cap on enrollment, particularly with faculty or teachers that are dealing with students with severe conditions, moderate to severe, that would be very practical. And I think I wanted to make sure I had one more point that we wanted to address. Also, if there is a need for having more intervention with specialists, such as a speech therapist, right now we have 1 hour per week for each. It's about 30 minutes, and it's really insufficient time for them to really develop that type of need or therapy. And so we would certainly like to petition any consideration for additional support for speech therapists or other therapists that may help augment some of the conditions that the instructors are currently having. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks, Mr. Gomez. Zenon? Zenon?
Tom Yampos.
All right, Tom Yampos, thanks.
Actually, I'm just echoing what he just said. My son's also in that program, and he's come such a long way. When we were first told that he had these autistic symptoms back in the summer, it's the most devastating thing my wife went through. We didn't know what our options were, and luckily they had this program that Elaine, who supervises my son, went through, and he's made so much progress on that as far as what your class, as far as what she's provided. But it is the cap thing that we're talking about, where it'd be ideal if it was, the quota was under 10, so they can get that one-on-one experience. So that's pretty much it. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Barbara Barile? Barile? Baril? I love that. All right.
My name is Barbara Burrell, and I've been with the district for 26 years, mostly under Barbara Davitt. Anyway, I'm a first grade teacher at Westlake School, and I'm here to say that the wage increase we need is that it needs to be a little bit more than what I've heard was offered, a lot more hopefully, to keep up just with cost of living. And I'm mostly here to represent one second-year teacher who's an extremely good teacher, very intelligent, who's thinking of leaving because she cannot afford to live in Daly City and teach here. She clears $3,000 a month, and her one-bedroom apartment here in Daly City is $2,200 a month. That leaves $800 a month for everything else. It includes a student loan, PG&E, cable, phone, internet, car payment, gas, and food, all for $800 a month, and leaves nothing for entertainment. So, so anyway, I think we're asking for, Melinda, help me.
I'm just asking for a good enough raise.
Good enough raise to help people like her. Thank you.
All right, well, that concludes our public hearing for the Jefferson Elementary School District counter proposal at 7:20. Administrator comments?
Yes, last night I attended the spelling bee, the district-wide spelling bee, and the winners will be coming to the next board meeting on April 8th to receive their recognition. And just to remind families that next week is spring break, so there is no school. Friday is the minimum day. The district office is closed on Monday and Friday of next week as well.
I'll pass. I'll pass also.
All right. Board member acknowledgements and commendations. We'll start down here.
Well, I also want to congratulate our students who participated in the spelling bee and thank them and their parents for coming out and doing that. It's always great fun. I'm always amazed at the words that they can spell in their head in the air, because I have to write it down to spell it. A couple of other announcements, just to let people know. Tomorrow night, is that correct? Tomorrow night at MP Brown is a family education night at 6 p.m. Dinner and childcare provided. The topic is number talks, promoting math competencies at home. And then on April 16th, there is another one, promoting civic mindedness at home. I assume that's on the same schedule. And I also notice I've got right here in front of me on April 23rd, we do have another family math night at Ben Franklin. So these are opportunities for all the parents in the district to come and to learn more about your students' math homework, how that works, what those changes are, and how to help your students. So I want to encourage people to come out to those. And I'm pretty sure there was something else I wanted to announce, and if it comes back to me, I'll
Saturday.
come back to it. So
Thank you. I first wanted to acknowledge, since we're still in the month of March, all of the wonderful women, as this is Women Heritage Month, so a lot of our female teachers, thank you for your service. I know this Saturday we have the Daly City Youth Health Center Fair Walkathon at Gellert Park, which is a great free family event, but also supports the youth of our community. And then I know it was mentioned before, but I did want to put another reminder out. April 11th is Daly City Family and Literacy Health Fair at Susan B. Anthony. So great events that we can all support. Thank you.
Thanks. Ms. Brizuela?
Well, see, on the 13th, I attended the Daily City Partnership meeting that they have every 2 months, and we had a fantastic speaker, and I don't have the name with me now, but I'd like to pass it on to Bernie and everyone and see if we can't get him to come and speak. It was fantastic. Also, I wanted to mention that I did go to the spelling bee, which I go every year, but this time I was asked to be a judge, and I was a little nervous, but it turned out so wonderful. And the students were great, and I think I was very proud of all of them. At the end, when they did the finals, it was going back and forth, and we didn't know who was going to do it because they were equally all so wonderful and so bright, and it just happened, you know. So they'll be here at our next meeting, which we'll be able to pat them on the back. And then also the other thing I wanted to mention was that was something else. We have a coloring contest with the library group, right?
And that does end on Friday.
This Friday?
Yes, so students should turn in their posters for the Public Library Associates contest to their school or the library by the end of the day, Friday.
Thank you. And so that's important. And then we also have flyers that went out to 3 of our schools that are feeder schools for the Broadmoor Property Owners Group, the people that live in that area. And they can color this little picture of a bunny rabbit, and everybody that comes down to the Easter egg hunt on Saturday, Saturday the 3rd, the day before Easter. Anyway, if they go down to the center, no matter what the picture looks like that they color, they're going to get a little gift. So everybody gets something. It's not a competition. So we look forward to seeing the students down there as well, or anyone that wants to drop by. So then tonight I wanted to ask that the meeting be closed in memory of Wilton Joseph Two Bears Guillory, and he was very instrumental working with our district in forming the nature group. And nature is, as I always have to stop to think what it is, it's Native American Indians reuniting and reuniting together for education or something. I don't know if I got it exactly in order. But anyway, he did pass away recently, and there was a nice memorial service for him down at Westlake Park. And we wanted just to say that he did an awful lot. He was also the one that was instrumental in making the legislator through Lou Pappen to establish a day in honor of Native American Indians. And that group has been active in our district for quite some time. And I think that we need to end the meeting in his memory. That's it.
I want to take the opportunity to acknowledge all the teachers that are here. The rough head count, there's about 61 in here, and it's my deepest respect for all of you that are on the front line of our students and our future leaders of this community. Thank you. I do have an announcement. On Tuesday, November 3rd, 2015, is Election Day. One of the best ways that we could influence monetarily how money comes into our school districts is to affect Sacramento. The best way to do it is basically getting people to register to vote. That's basically it. If we want more money into our district, it's more money from Sacramento because it comes from the state. And that's how we're going to do it, because that's what it comes down at the bottom line. So with your help, coming Tuesday, November 3rd, let's get those people registered to vote. And I've talked to Melinda Dart about this many times for the past years. Any registration drive, anything like that, I will be with you guys. If you guys go to Sacramento, I will be with you guys. So the way to change and bring more resources to our classrooms and our students and our teachers is to affect Sacramento. So Tuesday, November 3rd, 2015, let's get people to register to vote, and let's also go out there and vote. Thank you.
All right. I'd like to acknowledge and also commend Melinda Dart for helping to organize the Budget Challenge Workshop at Woodrow Wilson on Saturday. It was presented by Assemblymember Phil Ting and his office, and we actually, it was an eye-opener, and we got to, I'm not sure if it's going to actually count.
I don't think so.
But we got a taste of all the items that the state legislators have to go over for their budget decisions, and we got to give input. So it was an eye-opener, and it makes us actually work harder up here. As Mr. Otaidi says, the money comes from the state, but there's things that we can do as well. So thanks, Melinda, for that.
Yeah, I just wanted to add one more thing here. I think all board members probably got this. It's a letter from Mark Church. He's the Chief Elections Officer and Assessor for the County of San Mateo. And apparently, AB 2028 is a bill that's been passed for all-mail ballot pilot project. They're going to have a meeting on April the 9th, 2015, that they're inviting us to go to that. What they're hoping is that we will agree to have our elections, and we do have one coming up in November, that it be by all mail-in ballot. They're apparently going to send out these things to everyone with an envelope and a stamp, so you don't even have to put a stamp on it, to mail back, and they'll save a lot of money by not having all the precincts open, but they have to have at least one in every city. So I don't know how this is going to work, but apparently it works in another state.
Oregon's been doing it.
Is it Oregon?
Oregon,
Oregon. Of course, we have to understand, Oregon's a lot smaller than us, a lot smaller than California. But they're going to try it and see, so it's something that we should probably attend that meeting, if at all possible, or whoever does go bring back the information, and then maybe we can decide what we want to do. Aside from trying to get more money, like Mr. Otaidi said, it's sometimes we have to see how we can pull resources together to save money, so we can have more money for other things, like salaries.
That's right.
That's
All
it.
right.
That's
We
it.
have no more speaker cards, so we'll move on to any correspondence.
No, I was just going to mention the same letter that Ms. Brizuela mentioned. We have contacted Mark Church's office to see if he might come and make a presentation to our board, so you can understand the issue that's at hand and have any questions, and then eventually be able to move toward considering that for our school district elections. But that would probably happen April, May, at one of those meetings. We haven't heard back yet. I want to say that last week, and I think Mrs. Brizuela was there, I got to enjoy some corned beef and cabbage with Daly City Public Library Associates, and they were raising money
Yep.
for some very interesting and innovative projects that they want to do, both at the Saramonte Library, and I think, I don't know where the children's room is, but reupholstering the children's room at, is it the Gellert?
I think that's the Gellert Park, the
Okay.
Saramonte Library
Yeah,
that they're talking
Saramonte
about.
Library. So it was pretty cool. They raised quite a bit of funds, but they still need more. So you can visit their website and donate through PayPal. It's all set up, really easy to do. And I was sorry to have missed Phil Ting's workshop on budget. But, I think, Mr. Ali, you did bring up that one concept that you'd have to balance priorities when developing a budget. And I think this is something that we face here on a daily basis and certainly on a yearly basis as we consider what's available and what is needed. So that's it.
All right. Thanks. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second the motion.
All right, we need a roll call.
Mr. Otaidi,
Aye.
Mrs. Brizuela,
Aye.
Mrs. Leah Inga Anawai,
Aye.
Dr. Douglas.
Aye.
Mr. Ali.
Aye. Item number 5, general functions, community schools. Melinda Dart, President of AFT 3267, and Sheetal Shah, AFT Educational Issues Coordinator, will present on the National Community Schools Movement and AFT's effort to support local communities, exploring opportunities with local agencies to expand the presence of community schools.
Yes, thank you, Melinda Dart, AFT 3267. It's my honor tonight to bring a guest. This is Sheetal Shah from our American Federation of Teachers National Affiliate. She's here from Washington, D.C. She got stuck in Chicago the other night, so we're really glad that she made it out of the snow and is here with us tonight. We have been talking about this idea for about a year, and we're glad to have Sheetal here to give us more information about the vision of community schools that can offer complete services for students so that they get what they need at school. This is a really timely conversation because of a couple of Senate bills that are now coming up. We are going to Sacramento, by the way, in April. Anyone's welcome to join us. We're going April 13th, and we're going again April 20th. And we will be promoting the idea of passing Senate Bill 403, which establishes a Community Schools Act, and Senate Bill 527, which takes the money saved by Prop 47, remember Prop 47, which eliminates incarceration of youth for nonviolent crimes. Prop 47 is expected to save in the range of up to $250 million per year to the state. And this Senate Bill 527 would take some of that money saved by not incarcerating youth and would specify that it be directed to public education. That sounds like a really good idea to me, so I'm going up there to promote that. But meanwhile, tonight, let's find out what the vision of community schools is all about.
Thank you, Melinda, and thank you all for giving us some time on your agenda. I know it's tight and you have a lot of other very important things to discuss as well, but I think, like Melinda said, this is a really great opportunity, one in the state of California, which a lot of folks for the past 8 years have been organizing in terms of connecting with practitioners and school districts around this idea of community schools. It's not a new idea. It's been around since John Dewey and Jane Addams, where the school was the center of communities. That's where folks congregated for faith services, for medical attention, and for school, of course, right? So I really am glad that President Melinda Dart has invited me here to do a quick, very quick presentation so that you can answer, I can answer questions that you may have. And then also, I think Sandy passed around some more information which you can read at your leisure. So this image up here that you all see, the 61 or so educators in this room, as well as families, they see this every single day. And, you know, over the past day and a half, I've had an opportunity to speak with some of Melinda's members and other school staff. And, you know, there's always a resounding yes. We see this. Now the question becomes, our teachers, how are they, while they're trying to deliver a core, rigorous and engaging instructional program, supposed to really deal with this on their own, right? So the question becomes, how can we all work together? The home, the community, as well as the school staff and personnel, which includes obviously the school board and school district, right? To help students and families be successful. And not just those students and families in the school, but the families that are living in the community, in the surrounding community around the school. And no one is arguing that we don't need strong educators in our classrooms and that we don't need strong leaders in the schools. But we're also saying that in order to have student outcomes, we need to address the socio-emotional issues, as well as continue to have a rigorous and engaging curriculum, as well as have a strong family and community engagement component, right? And finally, or not finally, another point is how accountability matters. And at this point, I'm not really talking about testing. Yes, kids are going to be tested. That's an issue. However, what about the shared responsibility of the community in this enterprise that we call education, right? The community partners that are in our schools providing services, very much needed services to the students and families, but how does it fit into the school's actual mission and the objectives they want to achieve? For example, Woodrow Wilson's, one of the things they might want to achieve is improve attendance if they have an issue of chronic absenteeism. Now, is that something that the teacher or guidance counselor is going to be able to accomplish or solve for one family or 10 families and students on their own? What are the other issues that are the reason behind continued chronic absenteeism, right? So the community school strategy, and I'm going to get to that really quick, really does help address some of these issues. And one of the final facts, which was discussed here just a few minutes ago, is that there's not a lot of new money. So how are we going to, in the current fiscal state of not just California, but Daly City, really organize the resources that you guys just mentioned, right? That we need to figure out how to better organize resources, not just within the school district, but across public agencies to support students and families. Because a lot of the issues, we know what matters in school, right? Everyone here in this room can agree on this. These are the other things that are impacting our students. Research shows it. We can continue to dig up research that says that these are the non-academic factors. 25% of academic achievement can be attributed to what happens in the classroom while they're in front of their instructors or with their instructors. What about the other 75% that our educators don't have control over? So, and this is the other 75%. So how are we, as a school community, going to really address this? And the community school strategy, like I said, is nothing new. I used to work at a national organization which looked at best practices across the country. And this is what the national movement of community schools, this is how they define it. It's a school where partners from across sectors come together and their services and supports, academic and non-academic, are coordinated around a set of results that are identified, academic as well as non-academic, right? So it becomes an infrastructure that you're trying to place into a school to really facilitate those conversations, not necessarily around data, but how, when the teachers are having their collaborative sessions and figuring out what students to help, if it's a non-academic issue, they have someone in that school that is ready and able to help them find that support service, whether it's for the student or for the family, right? So this is just another image of what I said when I first started. And that you're not going to find in the folder, sorry, we can send that to you later, is a triangle. This is the developmental triangle that is student-centered, okay? And these are, we know research, Anthony Brake from Carnegie says this, and as along with other researchers as well, that these are the three things we need in place if we're going to first impact the child and then over time impact the community. Because with strong schools, you inevitably get stronger communities that are more stable. Some key principles of the community schools strategy is you have stronger partnerships because the partners in the school actually understand how they're contributing to the school's mission, and they know what other partners in the school are doing. So you have an efficacy argument as well. You won't have 3 tutoring programs that don't know what the other one's doing and don't know maybe how they're actually supporting what our teachers are doing in the classroom, right? So there's this transparency and communication happening. Like I said before, there's a shared vision and accountability, not just between the teacher and student, but the teacher, the community partner, the family, and the student. And it really lends itself to local decision-making, right? The school teachers, the principals, the families, the community partners are having these conversations. You're creating this space where it can flourish for everyone. And you're able to align the school and community assets, right? Because the school isn't just for the students. It's for those families that are coming to the school, sending their kids to the school. So how can we not just bring them in to receive a service or pick up their child, but then use that as the leverage to continue to engage them and become leaders in their communities? And each community school looks different because every neighborhood has different needs. The students have different needs within those communities. Core elements over time in schools that have been doing this for a while and school systems that have been doing this for a while, these are the different components of programs and supports and services that you'll see. This is what they're not. And going around the country, I speak to a lot of teachers and school professionals, and this is what they're asking. Well, is it going to be extra time? Am I going to be the one taking them to the doctors or the health clinic across the street or within the school? It's not meant to be an additional burden. In the short term, the planning process, when they're doing the needs assessment and stuff, yes, the teachers and school staff and school administrators are going to have to do some upfront thinking about how it's going to look. And then once you get that coordinator in to help with the partnerships and the supports, it becomes just the way the school runs. It becomes normal. Ask yourselves, what kind of schools would you want to send your kids to? Right? And those are the schools that we want for every child. And it's not, like I said, it's not the same in every community. And the biggest takeaway, if you walk away with anything, is that it's not a temporary program. It's not something that you want to think of as, we'll try it 1 year, and if it doesn't work, then we'll take it out. It's really a vision. It's how we want every school, like I said, to look. And if it is a vision, then we really need to think how we're going to work cross-agency. Because it's not, and again, don't get me wrong, it's not just public funding. It's a public and private partnership. So who are those public agencies and who are those community leaders that can come to a table and create a vision for Daly City Schools, for this school district? And I know I'm running short on time, but these are some pitfalls, right? Not seeing what your assets are that already exist, rather than going into it as a deficit model. Every community has so much to offer. We just need to dig. And most of the people that work in our schools, they know what those assets are, as do our families. Overlooking what's already happening, and meeting with some teachers in schools yesterday, a lot of these schools already have partners who, through their goodwill, want to work with these schools, and school staff that respect them, but there's just not this efficiency, and no one knows what the other one's doing. So in the end, we're not really changing the outcomes of our kids over time. And a lack of transparency. That's where the communication bit comes in, right? And another big takeaway, it's not a temporary program, but also don't be paralyzed by the conversation of money, right? I'm sure everyone is thinking about that. That is a much longer conversation, which we're happy to have, but let yourselves think about what this could look like if everyone across agencies supported our school district in realizing this sort of model in each school. And then let's talk about money, right? There are models out there in terms of how they're financing this, public and private, which we'd be happy to share with you as well. These are some benefits that we're seeing, looking at 9 school systems across the country. These are you're seeing children are better prepared to come into school. when you start working with pre-K, for example, and looking at that transition. Healthier students are, of course, going to be able to pay attention and do better in class, right? And teachers are getting more instructional time because they aren't being the mental health therapist. They're not the ones looking for the food for the weekend for the kids, right? They're still going to care and do it. We can't stop them. It's in their hearts and the way they are. However, let's support them to do it for more kids. You have more specific results in your folders, but these are just generally speaking, right? Students are doing better, but they're not going to necessarily, you're not going to see it in a year. When I talk with school districts and other folks, we need to give this time. The results that you might have now didn't happen in 1 year, right? So we're going to really need to strengthen the fabric. I'm not talking about Daly City, I'm speaking generally. Family engagement increases, school staff are stronger. You see higher retention. Teachers want to work in these schools because they feel better supported. And over time, communities are stronger. In places that have been doing this for over a decade, you see mobility decreasing. Families who were there, they want to stay there because their needs are being met and they feel ownership and investment in their schools. And then I'm going to kind of end with this slide, is, again, looking across 9 school districts, or 9 places, cities, towns that were doing this. These are the financial kind of findings. Resources, not just financial, but human resources, were strengthened, or the support of those strengthened learning. And then for every dollar a school district put in, 3 were leveraged. And what really contributed to the leveraging was that site coordinator, that one person in the school that was really working with the partners, organizing stuff, as well as a collaborative leadership framework at the site level, at the school site level. And there's a document in your folder that kind of identifies what that looks like, what that team looks like, which is not just inclusive of school administrators and teachers. It's expansive. And then that just breaks down how the money continues to support core learning, the core learning competencies. And different streams of funding. I just kind of want to get through questions, but these are educational funding streams and then some non-educational funding streams. It goes back to the necessity to collaborate across agencies.
Can you go back to that pie chart?
Sure. Sorry.
And then describe that?
Sure. That just shows how the $1 is leverage is 3, right? So you see, and this is, you can slice it and dice it kind of any way, but you see that the district in this particular chart contributed 26%. And then those were where the other funding streams were coming from.
Is that confirmed funding from these federal and
Yeah.
state?
So when we looked at the 9 systems,
The federal government said, and the city and the state said they would.
so when we looked across the 9 systems, 9 systems of community schools, for example, Multnomah County, which has 7 out of 8 school districts doing this work. I can't off the top, it's in the executive summary, which systems, but Tukwila, Washington, out of Seattle, Chicago, Cincinnati, and I can't remember the other 5 right now. But when you look at it, so your question is, did in all of the places every single kind of slice of pie commit that much? That was on average. If I'm making any, I don't know, making any sense, but it was on average. So the federal funding, for example, it's not that the federal government Department of Education said we're going to give 20% of your school district budget, or state, because that's state and then school district, towards this. School districts had to look
Got the money.
at what federal education dollars they were getting, and school districts decided that this is the model that we're going to use to transform our schools and funnel the money in to support this. So another piece of funding, which is not educational, but is from the Department of Health and Human Services, the SAMHSA grant, which is Substance Abuse and Mental Health Service Coordination money. A lot of cities and counties are in fact using that money because it's for service coordination. And generally speaking, most schools would need mental health services, and they use that money because it's for coordination to pay for the site coordinator. They'll start off coordinating mental health services, but then they'll branch out into coordinating other sorts of things. So but that, sir, would be kind of towards the federal.
As per the second slide.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry?
That's money that we're already allocating as per the next slide, the educational stream slide.
Right.
For Title 1 we're already allocating that money into the district.
Well, it looks like not necessarily, because a number of those are grants. You have to reach out and apply for
That's
grants.
right. These are examples of what went into the federal sort of slice of pie. Because every school district, every state is going to apply, like you said, Ms. Douglas, for different grants, right? So what we can do is send you actually how each of those 9 systems, what funding streams and how they braided it. Because there's no silver bullet in terms of funding, because every single school district, every single city and state applies for different money. The question becomes, as a school district, how do you want to spend your money? Not just, and as a city, because a lot of that federal money isn't from the Department of Education. It's from Health and Human Services, it's from HUD, it's from the Department of Agriculture, you know, for your food programs, for example, right? And that's just looking at the federal funding. Any other financial questions that I may or may not be able to answer off the top of my head?
Do you have any questions?
No.
I don't have questions, but I appreciate the presentation. It's
Thank you.
definitely a great model that I'd love to learn more about, so I thank you for this.
Oh, you're welcome, thank you.
Ms. Brizuela?
Well, thank you for the presentation also. One thing I wanted to mention on, not sure if it's page, oh, they're not numbered. It says CS Across America. Are these all the ones that are?
Community schools across America,
I just
yeah.
noticed that I think the majority of them are big urban cities. And that's probably, they're able to really get a lot of the partners because of that. But I guess later on, I would want to know how many small districts.
Sure, absolutely. Then
yeah.
one of the things community schools are not are just for urban districts, right?
Right.
So
But
a
this
lot
list
of the
made me
work,
look at it.
no, I know, and I constantly need to be updating that list. But some of the work I'm doing is actually in rural school districts.
Okay.
In West Virginia, in fact, and in rural places, the school is that center. Naturally, whether we
Naturally, yeah.
right? But even that's an extreme. You have smaller school districts like Tulsa, Oklahoma, or they have 2 school districts, in fact, and both of the school districts in Tulsa are doing it. In Ohio, there are smaller districts, so we can definitely get you examples. Most of the smaller districts happen to be in the Midwest, randomly.
Okay.
I had a couple of short questions. So the first one is, you kind of answered it before I asked it, but who typically would coordinate these services at the site? Have the schools, like you said, use the money to hire someone new, or do they choose someone at the site who could take that position on, or?
So there's a number of iterations of that, and I
right.
know,
Well,
I
that's fine.
apologize for always being vague and offering a number of ideas of how things can happen. So the site coordinator can be funded in a variety of ways. Now, the person, it can of course be a school staff person, but they can't be doing their current school staff duties. They have to give up that job, apply
right.
for this position.
Separate.
Because otherwise you don't get that return on investment, frankly, right? Like you really need someone looking at the operations of the partnerships and how they're impacting academics as well as the other needs. So it can happen through a nonprofit organization can support it, and Title I dollars,
All right.
which
Well, I
are
just wanted to know if it's always a new position, or is it sometimes an identified staff member? But you clarified that that person would give up their position and take on a new
It's a
position.
full-time.
So
And
I understand
one
that.
another thing, though, because I don't want to put this in a corner, like, not knowing what your positions, your staff, school employee positions are, sometimes school districts look at what the positions are and might.
See if something matches
Exactly,
up.
yes.
Yeah, because it could be a district-wide position too, which is my second question. How many in a district, if a district decides, yes, we want to have a community schools model, does that mean that every school becomes a community school, or do they choose one school, or how does that happen?
Good question. So often they'll phase it in. So maybe they'll, I apologize, off the top of my head, I don't remember how many schools you have.
14.
How many?
14.
14, right?
13 plus
So,
one.
you figure out over, if it's a 5-year plan,
Online.
often, 5 years is a good, I don't know why people choose 5 years, but it's a good timeline. They'll phase it in. And then, success begets success, right? So like when you start with 1 or 2 schools and other community partners see actually, because this happens, the benefit of being in a school.
Right.
And they're able to raise more money and often raise money that school districts can't raise. So,
All right. And then the last question is, are any of these schools, like, what are the hours? Do they stay open 24/7, 7 days? I mean,
right. So so they are often, over time, open longer hours. Now, that requires facilities, MOUs, et cetera, because it's not always, you need to work through that. In some cases, like Chicago, for example, after maybe 6 or 7 o'clock, the local YMCA would be the one that would be paying for keeping it open, right? So there are examples of joint
share the
use.
facility.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha.
So we could, when you get there, we can share that with you as well.
All right. No more questions?
I just want one more comment. So thank you, Sheetal, for coming
You're welcome.
to California. I think you have helped us to see, gosh, we're already doing so much of this. We don't quite have wrap around, but we have almost wrap around. It's like little portion of the circle that needs to be filled in. So thank you for that. We do have models of community schools in our county. We have several in Redwood City and Ravenswood. They got started, I think, about 8 years ago when there was funds from the state for counties to support school districts. So it was a joint grant application. They got funded at that time. They shrunk a little bit. They were challenged during the recession, but they were able to bounce back, and so they're still active. And so we will be taking a site visit with interested folks. So if you are interested in joining us on that, please let me know, and I will let you know the date that we do. And again, this is a process, and we'll be continually coming back to the board with updates and information on how this is moving forward, and perhaps action as well.
Yeah. Thank you all.
Thank you once again.
Thank you.
So, curriculum and instruction. And speaking of resources and money, let's accept our donations.
My favorite part of the day. And in this time of salary and resource negotiation, every penny to our classroom is greatly appreciated. I would like to publicly thank the following people for their monetary donations to Tobias, Ngala Juan, and Nicole Colette. Thank you very much, and I motion to approve these donations.
Second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah. Great.
Number 8, document scanning services contract. The administration recommends that the board approve a contract with Ray Morgan Company in an amount not to exceed $220,000 for document scanning services.
This is something that we've been wanting to do for quite some time. As you know, we have many files, and they're saying we have over 1 million files. And so sometimes we have to research these files. A lot of them are extremely old, but we are required to keep that information. The files are getting brittle. They're aging. They could be subject to flood or fire or theft, many things. But they are subject to, they do use our space up a lot, and we do have to access them and look for files. We get regular requests for files, for student files, a lot. And so it can also be a danger getting to these millions of files, trying to get through the boxes without injuring employees in the process, and it's very time-consuming. So what they offer is a service that turns it into a digital format, and that's searchable. And then there are we have online ability with key individuals to search the certain types of files. So everybody would have like a different hierarchy of what they could search and what they couldn't search, so that we maintain the privacy as needed. So we would like to reclaim our space. We would like to be able to search the files in an effective manner, and these files continue to grow all the time. Can I answer any questions about Ray Morgan and what we've asked them to do?
No,
The question on this, for the $220,000, is that scanning all the files for
It's
all the years
Yes.
of this district?
Yes, all files that are currently history.
And the dead file, we always called it.
Yeah, yes.
Even though it's not dead.
And then also files from individuals who are currently working here, too.
yes, a lot.
So, yeah.
Okay, so then what happens after this?
After this, well, then there could be a phase 2 where we start to, that's something that we have to bring them in and ask them about, where we start to save the files, the new files, in that same manner.
Format, yeah.
So that we don't end up just starting to recollect a whole bunch of files.
Makes sense. Well,
So, yeah, I mean, this has been an issue that I've certainly identified it many years when I was in student services. As you know, federal policy with regards to immigration and immigration status changes all the time, and frequently we have community members coming in and saying, I need proof that I was in school in 1996. And so we ask them a couple of questions, and we say, okay, in about a week we can let you know if we were able to find your file, because we have to give that information to an employee who will go and search the files, and as Ms. Kessler identified, sometimes climb over boxes and move boxes to get to the right file. And for the most part, we are able to find that file, but it would be nice to say, give me a minute and I can give it to you right now. So that's one of the things that I think this service can help us do. Yeah, there are some files. These files keep growing every year, and so now we're sort of running out of space to keep them. So,
how many school districts are still keeping files in this
paper form.
this
I
way?
think in the last 5 years, the solutions have become a lot cleaner. So many school districts in the last 2 to 3 years have started adopting this kind of a solution to their files.
Yes.
I would say in San Mateo County, maybe a third to a half have already moved in this direction. Many with this same company, others with another company. This company is popular because it provides advanced searchability as well as modules to incorporate new files and other types of forms that are generated at a district level.
Right. So to save space, time, and be more efficient, it makes sense.
So this takes care of student files and employee files and any other, like,
Student payroll personnel.
and what about, like, say, all the board stuff? All that goes to? Are they saving all that?
Yeah, we will discuss with them. Right now, this quote is just for student employee payroll documents, but we've discussed with them the possibility of archiving all previous board minutes and agendas and packets.
So our board policies will also be scanned in?
Oh, our board policies currently are online, so they don't need to be, they don't need to be scanned. But we have minutes. I know that I've gone through at several times in my career. I need minutes from the 1999 adoption of the social studies textbook because I need to prove that we adopted a particular text, and we have to get the minutes for that. So,
But if we take all the other files, and they're not going to be around anymore because they're going to be in this new system, then we'll have some space for a while, right?
For a little while.
For a while.
for a while. And then we just begin, once we know what the end solution is, then we'd start discussing how do we move new information into that from the start.
Exactly.
So that it's not a dual, we don't have to keep going through this double process. But first we need to decide on the end solution and format, and then we can discuss ways of moving new information in that way.
So do I understand it that this company's coming in to do everything, so it's not going to require our employees to have to do this?
Our employees will not have to scan this, that's correct. They will scan them, they will do an inventory, help us do an inventory of the documents that we have, and deliver us the files in electronic format.
Any more information needed?
Just some
To vote?
backup on that, to have a backup on that material.
Yeah, well, we would probably make multiple copies and send one to the bank vault or something.
Yeah,
All right.
okay.
You see, that is always the one concern when you go digital is readability down the line. But you got a valid point. The paper copies aren't necessarily readable in 100 years either. They deteriorate, especially in a climate like this where you never know what's been growing mold in the back room. So,
And many of those files are in our warehouse building, which you know is not most of
yeah.
the weatherproof building that we have in the district, so.
Okay.
right. So I think it makes total sense. So I will make a motion that we approve the document scanning services contract.
Yeah, we have one speaker card from.
Oh, we do, I'm sorry.
That's all right. Ms. Melinda Dart.
Thank you. Thank you. Melinda Dart, AFT 3267. As much as I do love the idea of this, and I wish I could have someone come to my house and scan all the boxes of union documents that I have sitting around, and I understand the need for this, right? I really do. But I do just want to say that $220,000 is a significant amount of money in our school district. And at this time of year, when we are sitting at a negotiating table, we do hear that the pie is only so big. We hear that a lot, and that resources are limited. And then we hear also about priorities, right, and what's important in our district. So, and I brought to you tonight preschool teachers because I feel they're a priority. I really do. And the amount of money required to give them a few more steps or longevity is a very small amount. It's very small compared to $220,000 to scan documents. So I can't be silent on this. I have to stand up and bring to your attention priorities here. Sure, scan documents, I can see the convenience and I understand it's probably necessary, but just remember that that's almost 1% of a salary increase for hardworking employees. It's certainly, there are people that are asking for things such as capping classes in special ed. Let's please hear that it isn't scanning documents that keeps us from doing some of those other really important things. Let's keep those things in mind. Thank you.
Thanks. Is there any more deliberation?
I'm sorry. May I ask what the timeline is on the scanning? What are we looking at?
We're looking at getting started as soon as we can, and did they tell us it was like a 10 to 12 week process for the whole thing?
I'm not exactly certain about the amount of time. I do know that I had asked to make sure it wasn't something that was going to carry on for years and years, and it was a reasonable amount of time for that, and they would do it in sections so they don't empty out everything all at once.
And then tie it all up. Yeah. And this is a one-time expense, which does play into the use of our reserves in ways that are sustainable. That is because they don't have to be sustained.
Correct. It is one time.
If we have to scan more somewhere down the road.
That's true, unless, of course, we succeed in setting it up things, and that, of course, is the direction everything will and should be going, is towards going electronic from the get-go rather than having to do things and then scan them. But I suspect getting them this way is the first step on that road. So my motion still stands.
Is there a second?
I'd also like to comment, I'll second, but I'd also like to comment on Exhibit B. It says that it will be pricing at the image, at the per image, so it's not 220, it's 14 cents per image, 32 cents per file, et cetera, et cetera.
Not to exceed.
Not to
yeah.
exceed, exactly.
Good point.
And that does have a 15% cushion in there because they had to guess, of course. They're not going out and counting every file.
Right.
And it's difficult to determine what pages have two-sided. And if there are two-sided, then, those are two images. And so they've also said that they tend to try to estimate high, but we also wanted to make sure that we are able to do what we need to do.
So, not to exceed 220,000.
Correct.
What if we reach that point, and then they stop scanning?
Then we would come to you, yes.
Oh, yeah.
So their experience with other school districts that they've worked with is that they come in under the amount that they quote.
All right.
Ms. Kessler and I, because we know that our files are a little bit messy, thought, well, let's put another 10% in there just in case there's more than
It
we
was
thought. There's
15.
more work for it. So it's actually 15%. So they quoted us at something like 192.
191,
Someone
yeah.
And
we
so we
went
put
up.
in the extra just in case it is more. But they have consistently quoted other school districts and come in below that.
All right.
But we're special. We think we're complicated, so we don't know exactly what's in those boxes.
And with luck, we'll be proven wrong and
Yep.
turn out to be no more complicated than anybody else.
Maybe we're normal.
Nah.
Is there any more
Second
information?
motion.
needed? All right. So all those in favor?
Aye.
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 I hear
I-
3 to 4.
Why don't you ask if there's any against?
Any against?
I think I really appreciate what Melinda said, and it's unfortunate that this came at the same night of all the discussion of what we need to do. I would hope if I supported this and voted for it, that we're not going to have excuses that we don't have money to do the other things. Okay? It's not intended to be a negative, but a positive, because we do have to get those things done as well. So I'll vote for it, but I definitely want to see some improvement in the other areas as well.
Thank you, Melinda. I have to say, it's hard for me too, personally. I mean, we appreciate all the work that we see done, and I totally understand what you're saying with our teachers, but with regards to what Marie has just said, I know that some things we have to get done, and the hope is that we will find a means to an end to make sure that we can accommodate all the needs on the table. Thank you.
So just to clarify, was that unanimous?
Yes, I believe so.
It was sort of a hard unanimous.
Certificated personnel, item number 3, declaration of need for fully qualified educators 2015 to 2016. The California Commission on Teacher Credentialing requires the governing board to vote annually to approve the attached declaration certifying that there may be an insufficient number of certificated persons.
So this is something that obviously we need to do annually, and the kinds of situations we find ourselves in when we go to hire, sometimes we're hiring people who do need an emergency permit, like they haven't quite done the English learner portion that they need to finish, or in cases of librarians and resource teachers, sometimes they have a couple more classes to take to really fulfill the rest of that credential. So we do need to issue emergency permits for some teachers. And there's also limited assignment permits. For instance, some single subject areas like math or science, people may need to, again, make up some units. Same for special education. So it's an estimate of what we do. As long as we estimate within 10%, we're okay.
Motion to approve the attached declaration certifying that there may be an insufficient number of certified persons.
Second motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good. Classified personnel, retirement.
Upcoming a retirement that we don't really want to accept, but again, I understand why she may want to retire after working in our district for about 40 years.
Yeah.
So Georgia Law, who's our in classified personnel, the human resource specialist, she is going to retire at the end of May. And we, of course, want a resolution to commend her for her years of service with the district. She started in September of 1975.
Wow.
And she has such a wealth of knowledge about classified personnel that we're hoping she'll be able to share some of that before she does leave.
I was going to say, I
Bad
thought Georgia
timing.
Law was a institution, not somebody who could go and retire on us.
At the same time as
Yeah, however, I will
you.
reluctantly, recognizing the lure of retirement, move that we accept her retirement and that an appropriate resolution be prepared commending her for her years of service.
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor? Aye.
Oh, okay.
So, Ms. Law usually prepares those resolutions, so she just asked that she not have to prepare her own. So we think we can handle that.
All right.
Also, one of her last working days will be our Employee Recognition Day, which is set for May 28th. So there will be an opportunity to celebrate her 40th year of service at that event.
All right. Well, thanks, Ms. Law. And we're already to our board policies and administrative regulations. The board will review and revise board policy administrative regulations from April 2014 CSBA board policy revisions as stated in a second reading.
So I remember I mentioned at last meeting that I had, yeah. So basically what I wanted to know is there's a huge section here of employee notifications. And so I wanted to know how do we notify the employees? I mean, I just see there's so much here. I can't imagine. How do they read all this, or how do they know about all this?
I can take a first attempt at answering that. So many of those are initial notifications or upon hire, so it happens at that moment when they get processed for employment. Some of these are annual notifications, so some of these notifications happen in the annual mailing packet that employees get in the summer prior to starting the school year. Others of these notifications are done in a staff meeting at the beginning of the school year. For instance, the one around child abuse reporting requirements. It says here we need to do that upon hire, but we do it every year.
Oh, yeah.
So just to make sure everyone's clear on what's reportable and everyone's responsibility on that. So
So they're given copies of all the documents and everything, and
initially, yes.
Binder.
Initially, yes, they are. Yeah. And then the stuff that gets in the mail, yeah, those are copies of it as well.
okay, thank you.
Motion to approve second reading of board policy?
I'll second that.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Board member comments and reports. Dr. Douglas.
I just have one thing that I want to see if we could maybe put on the agenda for a meeting somewhere down the line, which is to discuss the possibility of returning to the schools some portion of the money saved through composting programs for them to use on gardening programs. So just to.
Yep.
All right.
That we'd be happy to do that, at least talk about if there is any
Right.
savings from the composting programs.
Right.
But
Well, I mean, I hear
we can
these
do a report.
reports that when they start doing their composting programs, they go down from like
Yeah, I hear them too. But I don't-
gazillions. You're
I
not
don't-
seeing it in
I don't
the-
see that in the garbage bill, but we'll.
Maybe we should be
we'll
taking
do a
that up
report.
with the garbage company.
We'll
Yeah.
certainly do a report to give you
Right.
a sense of that.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
I don't have anything to report, but just to apologize for my absence at the last meeting, and just, it's great to be here today.
Great to have you.
Ms. Briswell.
No, I don't have anything.
All right. Mr. Untitled.
Thanks for staying for the meeting, and thank you for your comments.
And I don't have any reports, but I know we do have an upcoming meeting again with the city of Daly City.
Yes.
So looking forward to that. And along the lines of Ms. Douglas, just mentioning that, I've been hearing a lot from the community that we want to better address the need for our students to participate in sports, and I know that the administration is working on that as well. And I guess that's it. So,
And, talking about the community schools, it sounds like the schools I attended when I was young. Because they had dentists coming in, working on people's teeth, the kids' teeth, and, all kinds of things going on.
yeah.
And it's a hard thing to do, but it can be done. So,
Definitely. All right, and we have a speaker's card from Pamela Di Giovanni.
Hi, good evening, board members, Honorable Vice President, President of the Board, Superintendent Bernie Vidalis. How are you? I'm here tonight. One of the first things I'd like to do is bring to attention Christopher Carpenter. Christopher Carter is in our greater member of our community. I'll try to keep myself from crying. He has T-cell lymphoma. He's African American, so therefore the bone marrow transplant chances of him finding a match is very slim. So we're trying to go on the GoFundMe. Anyone listening, Chris Carpenter GoFundMe site, and if you want to become a donor, or if you can put $5 or $10, he's only been given 1 year to live without this bone marrow match, and his twin brother is not a match. So it's very sad. So he's erasing his time. He's a father, a grandfather, a loving friend that I happen to know. Secondly, I'd like to acknowledge the teachers out here that are actually grading papers to let you know that I'm in support of these teachers and that we really need to fund them and realize that it's very expensive to live in San Mateo County for an apartment or otherwise, and do hope that we do fund the funds. And I'm a community member, so as a community member, I want to let you, I lend my full support on the community schools and other members that I've been speaking to in the community, and I look forward to hopefully reaching out and we can work on different areas and make a healthy community all together. And I thank you for your service and your time. Thank you.
All right, thanks. All right, so at this time, we will convene to close session in.
Do we have a name of somebody that we're closing in memory of today?
Yes.
Okay, good.
I have it right here. And in honor, we'll have a moment of silence in honor of Wilton Joseph Two Bears Guillory. Thanks. And so we'll take a 5-minute